This is kind of your ball game this week. You're playing in the sun before
Yeah.
a crowd and a Power 5 opponent.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a great experience for our players to go down there, and it's a really, really cool atmosphere to play in the Swamp, and their fans are excited. It's one of the best SEC atmospheres there is, so it'll be a great experience for our players for sure.
What's kind of the feel? Obviously, you stood on the SEC sidelines and everything. What's kind of how different is that? What's kind of the feel of the atmosphere?
You know, there's a couple places that are different. Some are a little more rowdy or a little more angry at you than others. But the Swamp, they're pretty angry at you usually. I'm not sure they'll be angry at Idaho, but if you go in there as Arkansas or you go in there as somebody else, they get after you pretty good. They all surround your bus as you're coming up to the stadium and kind of stop it, doing the gator chop. When you're on the golf cart trying to get to the press box as a coach, they stop it and do the gator chop. And so, and then in the game, they're a great crowd. You know, it's a really cool atmosphere to play in.
You obviously spent quite a bit of time in Gainesville, or just kind of over the years. What's that town sort of like?
It's really cool. I always thought, because I recruited that part of Florida for about 14 years, and it would have been my favorite place. You know, it's if you had to pick one of those big schools down there, it's a really cool college town. It's a great atmosphere. You could really see where it'd be a nice place to recruit, and people would feel it's got all kinds of tradition, you know, and it's just, to me, it's a really cool college town with a great football tradition, a great stadium, everything else.
How does it change the way you prepare this week when you're going to face an opponent who, you know, probably across the board has more talent than you?
Yeah, you got to try to come up with different ways to give them a chance. You know, you got to come up with different ways that how you can get an advantage, whether it's numbers wise or you just got to come up with everything you can to try to give your guys the best chance that they got.
So you're going to empty the playbook this week?
Yeah, you sure? Yeah, you might see it all. Yeah.
Can I talk about the recruiting Florida, and obviously over the last few years, especially more and more guys. Is that you mostly with the?
Me and Coach Sinkovich, yeah, because actually when I was at Arkansas and then I went to Illinois and my brother hired Coach Sink, he kind of took over my area in Florida, so he's recruited there also. So, and when we had Kenny Holmes on our staff, then he helped there too. But yeah, it's usually through the connections that I had from when I was there forever, and the connections that Coach Sink has.
As an observer, just from a fan's perspective, are there any matchups between your kids and their kids that you're especially looking forward to?
There's matchups. I think anytime you play a school like that where you maybe have sometimes the best chance is the skilled positions. You know, not necessarily always do you in the trenches, but it's always an interesting matchup just to see guys go play them. You know, and I always try to tell our guys that this is a game that you want to have to go in and ask Tim to get a copy of the game and want to show to your kids someday that you played a great game. I remember when we played Florida State and we got beat pretty bad. They won the national championship that year, but there was 3 or 4 kids on our team that had good games and played well that day.
In games like that against Florida State, Florida, or Missouri, or something, what's sort of the emphasis in the games?
I think the biggest thing is it's still kind of the emphasis of every week. You know, if to give ourselves the best chance to win, we can't make mistakes. Everybody has to do their job. Everybody has to play with unbelievable effort. And then if you do that, you have a chance. You never know. And that kind of goes to every game, but it definitely goes to a game like this. You're not going to be able to take a few plays off and it be okay. That's for sure. That's probably the case every game, but definitely for sure when you're playing an SEC team or any team that's a lot higher level than you.
Does it make a difference, or which is the hardest thing to have to deal with? Their strength or their speed or something else?
It all. You know, I think speed is the biggest thing that always shows up, especially when their strength is big and then they're still really fast. But I'd always probably speed is the biggest difference for sure.
Well, trickery sometimes negates that.
Sometimes, yeah, you hope, unless they get you before you get to the trick.
That 2014 Florida game, the one play won, did you have any stories that sort of arose out of that and sitting in the locker room kind of hurt?
We just sat there forever. We ordered something to eat. It was just kind of a crazy day. And then got back on the bus and got back on the plane and came home. So it was pretty unusual day, that's for sure. And then it almost happened the very next week at Monroe. That's what people, I think, sometimes forget. We went to Monroe the next week, and that was a delay forever too. But then we got to play that day.
Is there something you do at the end of the year a little different, knowing you're going into a last game? Do you prepare kids a little differently or tell them something different going into a last game?
You feel bad for the seniors, and you let them talk to the team at the end of the last game. But really with the young guys, you're starting to prepare. Like we stayed out there a long time Sunday night with all the young guys, and you're starting to prepare them preparing them, get some extra practices like spring ball, preparing them for the future.
That brings up an interesting point. Have you had a chance to get any thoughts pulled together yet about how you might do things differently next year, having been through the league once now?
I think that would be more like the week after the season's over, and even over like probably when recruiting goes dead and you have that little period over Christmas. That's a great question, and definitely something that we'll get together as a whole staff and look at everything, but we haven't done it yet, no.
On recruiting, I'm guessing you're going to still remain going to Florida. You had signed the corner from Orlando.
We haven't signed anybody yet. They can't sign it. I can't talk about anybody or I'll get in trouble. But we're still always going to stay. I think you always use friends and family. Anytime you have somebody that you really know and you trust and they tell you somebody's good, you're always going to use those people. And I like I said before, I can't comment on anybody, but if it's a player that played for me before and they're coaching a young man, and I recruited them when they were coming up, and then they're their coach, and they tell me that they're a good player, then that's a good, easy way to start out with the trust, and then you still got to watch the tape and meet them and go through everything. But we're gonna, I think as we move forward and keep getting better, we got to get the best guys from right around here for sure. I think that's the number one first thing, but we're always going to use the relationships that we have, anyone on the staff.
Kind of along those lines, when you have gotten a boatload of good players out of the Southeast, does it help generally to have a team down there playing?
Yeah, I think it does. I think anytime you can have one game that, before we went back there a lot, so it was even a little bit easier. But I think anytime you can show them we're going to come back and your parents can come watch it, I think that definitely helps.
I know there's a few guys sitting at that 3 games mark for the red shirt. Thinking of maybe getting that. I know against Florida it's kind of.
No, there'll be some guys that'll get in there for sure. Yep. I mean, I think you get them some experience. Get them out there, let them experience playing, in that great atmosphere. So there'll be some guys that'll get that chance for sure.
At this point in the week, is there anybody who's out for sure still or not?
Not at this point. Not at this point. I don't. I think you go later into the week before I know if anyone's for sure out or not.